I was thinking of trying to get a paddle tennis game today because my meeting's canceled. I'm like, no, my friends are not going to want to go out today.
All right, thank you all very much. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the New Canaan Board of Education, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. If we can all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Excellent, thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to please get a motion to approve the agenda for January 21st, 2025. Can I get a motion? Matt, second. Matt, all in favor? Excellent. And then if I can get a motion to approve the minutes of both January 6th, which was a regular meeting, and January 10th, which was our budget workshop from a couple weeks ago. Julie, second. Penny, all in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. Next, we'll move on to comments from the public. To ensure the public's right to be heard, the board set aside time during the meeting for public comments. 2 minutes will be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 15 minutes to each subject. Would anybody like to approach the board?
And I guess. Thank you.
If you could just a reminder, everybody, just state your name and street, please.
Yes, my name is Julia Farber of Sagamore Trail. Tonight I'm here to address the troubling inconsistencies between school administration actions and New Canaan public school policies, particularly the lack of functioning communication channel between parents and the Board of Education. According to New Canaan Public School Policy, Section 1210, Public Complaints about Conduct of School, all parents' concerns must be routed through the superintendent. Complaints should first go to the staff member involved. If unresolved, they may proceed through administrative levels to the superintendent. Complaints made directly to the board must also be referred to superintendent for resolution. This policy creates a bureaucratic loop that causes issues to stall indefinitely. The system is broken and requires immediate revision. In February 2023, I reported hazardous walking condition on my street caused by frequent fog, impacting 13 children, 15 now, walking to the bus stop. Despite following the policy steps, it took 6 months to hold the Board of Education hearing in August 2023. At the hearing, the administration presented outdated Google Street images from January 2016 instead of conducting an actual site inspection during fog. Mr. Roy Walder admitted that no one had walked the path under foggy condition, and the written decision drafted by then Chair Katrina Parkhill misrepresented my testimony. Since then, I've submitted multiple videos and measurements clearly demonstrating the hazard. Over the past 2 years, I've sent more than 40 emails requesting review. On September 27, 2024, I emailed all board members urging critical review of Section 1210 and outlining my concerns. To date, I have not received a response, neither regarding the hazardous conditions nor the policy itself. The issue is now escalated to the State Board of Ed that is scheduled for March of this year. While the current budget allocates $5.6 million to administrators, a critical safety concerns affecting our children has remained unresolved for more than 2 years. I recognize that the Board of Ed serves an unpaid volunteer capacity, but this matter demands immediate attention to prevent further delay and ensure student safety.
It's been 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to approach the board? Okay, moving on. We're going to swap a couple of things in our action items. We're going to move over to the donation from our high school PFA, and I think a little presentation, so thank you.
Hi, thank you for having us tonight. I'm Ann Wagner, one of the co-presidents with the New Canaan High School PFA. Joining me today is, to my right, Heather Bollinger. She is the VP for Gifts and Grants, and then next to her is Kristen Jimsky, a fellow co-president with the PFA. Okay, so tonight we are here to discuss a proposal for another campus improvement. And as you may recall, last year, we were able to replace the front entrance sign to our campus. Also, the sign that had been there since 1998 is now at the back entrance of the school. Hopefully, you've all seen that. So we were able to save the old sign and create another spot for it. So I just wanted to come full circle on that, since that was something that we had discussed last year. So in the spirit of campus improvements, we would like to use some of our annual appeal dollars towards another one, which brings us to today's proposal. Okay, so using our slides above, as you enter the main building, there is a vinyl banner at the main entrance, and that's in slides 1 and 2 here. The vinyl banner is meant to last 1 to 3 years, and it's now been there about 5 years, and it's fading and cracking, and it's lived its life. So the PFA is proposing that we remove the vinyl banner and relocate the New Canaan High School letters that are now on the outside facade of our auditorium to the front entrance where the vinyl banner sits. So the first slide on the left are the letters that I'm discussing. And so we would like to move those letters to the front portico there and also put 2 ram heads on either side of that. And so that is shown in the right slide, or the right image in this slide. So in place of where the New Canaan High School letters were, we would like to add visual and performing arts to the outside facade of the auditorium to honor that department. As you may know, the athletics department has similar lettering outside the gymnasium. So if you're looking at the front of the school at the portico, to the right, towards the gyms, obviously, there's sign with the same sort of architectural lettering that says the athletics department. So we would just like to honor both of these extraordinary departments, and with this new open facade, put visual and performing arts. So, which brings us to our proposal. All right, we have been in touch with Hungwell Signs. It's an improved district vendor. They also did the lettering for our front entrance sign. The quote for accomplishing this project is $11,006. So to summarize, starting from the top there, again, we would like to remove the vinyl banner, which has really stood the test of time, but it's kind of outdone, it's outlived its lifespan there, and take the New Canaan High School letters and repurpose them to where that sign was. So in that front portico, put the ram heads on either side. And the reason for that, which I meant to mention, is that we've been trying to do an initiative to boost our school spirit and also make sure that every student feels that they're a ram. So in the spirit of that, we thought that that would be fitting to be placing there as students are entering the building. And then again, where the New Canaan High School letters used to be, we'd like to replace that with visual and performing arts. Okay, so that concludes our proposal. And so we are asking to make a donation of $11,006 to cover the cost of this campus improvement. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I have a question. First off, I think it's a fantastic idea. Love the idea of moving it to the middle, getting rid of the temporary banner, and adding the visual arts, or visual and forwarding arts. I guess my question is, if we're moving older ones, is there going to be? I guess is there a reason not to buy new ones, or will they look different because we're going to be using like a similar font with new metal letters for the visual and performing arts section? Is it going to look okay with the old letters that we're repurposing?
I believe so. We spoke to Hungwell Signs about that very question, also about the brick excuse me. We also asked about the brick and that will it be washed out or whatnot, but even if it is, he feels that it can be cleaned and then affix it with the letters. But back to your question, all the letters should match and it should be cohesive.
Okay, great. And the lifespan, I presume, of the older ones is still plenty of life in those.
Correct. Yes.
Penny?
So I had the same question about the lifespan of the lettering and whether or not we might need new lettering, and we just want to make sure, because we want it to stay for another 20, 30 years, right? So
Right.
if we need to replace it, then, we should do that as a community, as a board. I love the idea of switching it. What about the brick where you're taking them off? Aren't those, how is it affixed now, and how are we going to repair the brick where the letters are coming off?
Heather, do you want to speak to that?
So it's affixed by pins that are mostly in the mortar of the brick. So when you take them off, it would just be touching up that mortar where they were removed. And the ones that are being removed are up so high that you most likely wouldn't notice the holes or anything that was missing at that level. Plus, you're putting the visual and performing arts to replace it.
So,
But-
I mean, it's just, just because it's a little bit of a renovation project, I'm a little worried that there's no contingency to take into account if more work needs to be done to fix the mortar. And I'm not saying you all need to come up with that money, but I would, if it's the case, maybe we as a school ought to kick it in, or, something. But you never know when you're going to when you're doing the renovation, when you're going to have to touch a project contingency. So that's the only thing I'm a little bit concerned about with the proposal. I think it's going to look fabulous.
I guess to answer that question is that the real test will be when he takes the letters down. And there's no way to really do that without taking the letters down to know what's going to happen. Kevin Hungwell Kevin Kane of Hungwell Signs, sorry, is the same vendor that did the letters that are on the side of Farm Road. So we do feel like we've found somebody who is very familiar with our building, is very familiar with where he's going to be placing it. I think he also did the home of the Rams on the other side. So we do believe we found somebody who, if he really thought there was going to be an issue, he would have brought it up, because that work would fall onto him to do, and also be, something that he probably would have included in his quote. He's pretty much told us that any little touch-ups would be covered and unnecessary. And one of the other things, too, that we did test before this question may come up as well, we did take the vinyl banner down, and there's no fading or anything underneath that, so it's not as though you're going to see a big lighter square or rectangle when that is removed. So so we have done a little bit of work, but I think until we take the letters down, I don't know that we'll truly know. And I don't have a cost for mortar, but I can't imagine that it's extreme.
No, I would just say, I think it's a great project, I want to vote for it. If you run into trouble with it, I just want to make sure that you come back to us, and so that we get the result, that we need and, all want as a community on it. If the cost ends up being slightly different than the $11,006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Penny. Any other questions? All right, can I get a motion to accept a donation from the Canaan High School PFA in the amount of $11,006 for building signage improvements? Penny, second. Julie, all in favor? Excellent, it's unanimous. Thank you. Thanks so much. Excited to see it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to teacher evaluation, professional learning plan, and leaders evaluation and professional learning plan.
Yes, so I can share just a little bit, and Dr. Crenti can share more if you need, but this should be relatively straightforward. So you'll recall that Dr. Crenti shared the Temple plan with us not too long ago, and shared that it was under revision according to state and statute. So we were thrilled to receive notification over the break that the state has accepted our program. So we've got their seal of approval after multiple iterations, and Dr. Crenti going back and forth and working with them to do that. So the last step in the process is for the Board of Education to formally accept that plan at a Board of Education meeting, so we can show them the minutes and show that yes, you're aware of the plan that we have, thanks to Dr. Crenty's presentation, and yes, you accept it as our professional learning and teacher evaluation plan. And it's a similar plan for, as you know, our teachers and our administrators, and TEPL is our teachers. LEPL is a horrible acronym and is for our administrators, but we all know what that is, and it's served us quite well over these past 10 years, and we think it'll continue to do so.
Thank you. Do I have any questions? Oh, wow. Sure. All right. You're off the hook, I guess. That's great. Can I get a
Such a good presentation
Yeah.
last time. It's
Good.
a lot of questions.
just the right length, everything. Right. Can I get a motion to accept? I'm sorry. Can I get a motion? I was accepting another donation. Just can't stop with the donations. Keep them coming. Can I get a motion to approve the updated TEPL and LEPL plans, please? Julie, second. Penny, all in favor? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Crenty. I know
Thank you,
it was a
Dr.
long one.
Crenty. Yeah. And then moving on to the superintendent's 2025-2026 budget proposal for the second read.
Yes, thank you. So first, I want to say thank you to the board for the time that you've put into the budget. As you know, we've spent close to 4 hours together a week ago Friday, where we took a deep dive into the insurance, looked at every element of the budget, and weighed pros and cons of different things. Additionally, I want to say thank you to the Resources Committee, who also spent some time, again, looking through both the statement of accounts and discussing more of the information about the budget and different considerations. As an administrative team, we've gone to work after that workshop, looking at potential need. Certainly grateful for the depth of discussion with the board about options and about deferred items and things. So and Dr. Crenty had met with the elementary principals soon thereafter and had some great conversation about that as I continued to meet with Mr. Egan, who left to go to a basketball game. He wanted me to make sure I told all of you that he wasn't just walking out of the meeting, he's going to the basketball.
Priorities.
Yeah, I get it.
I know where we can take the budget money from. We can take it from the high school. Congrats, Doctor.
Sorry, Bill, you didn't get it. Yeah. But he might listen. He might be listening and come back down. But again, we went to work and I talked to Bill at great length, and I know again Dr. Crenty spoke with our elementary principals as well about need and opportunity and things. Looking at the deferred list, the list that you were presented in the superintendent's presentation remains, and the priorities that we had outlined in the workshop also reflect the findings and the discussions that we've had both with Bill and with the elementary principals. So with that, as you know, tonight is the night that certainly Board of Education is welcome to discuss and consider and make whatever changes you feel comfortable and appropriate making. It's a quick turnaround because after tonight, we will be going with the Board of Selectmen on Thursday morning in order to share the Board of Education's budget with them. And they always ask for the information in advance. They wanted it this morning, and I had to say no. No. But hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow, we'll have the budget updated, whatever changes or adjustments are necessary, so that we can move forward with the Board of Education's budget starting Thursday with the Board of Selectmen. So looking forward to that too.
Excellent, thank you. And thanks again for all the work that you guys have put into this, and I really appreciate the process. It's not an easy one, it's not a short one, but I feel like this year, at least of my 4 years, 4 times going through this now, it's been by far the most efficient, and I think we're at a really, really good place. But I know there's a lot of discussion and things that have come up over the last couple of weeks, and wanted to open it up to everybody else for further discussion before we vote. Questions, thoughts, comments? Erica.
So one of the things that we had talked about a little bit was the math interventionist, which was something I believe we discussed during, or was presented as a part of the board workshop, but was not included in the budget that we were presented with. And I would like to see us add that to the budget. I think that having a math interventionist can help, as Principal Egan had said, with providing students with drop-in support and direct individualized support in high school. One of the things that we heard as a board from alumni that came back after the class of 2024 that came back in December was that there are students that would like to double up on math so that they can get to AP Calculus before they graduate high school. And this position will be able to help support students and especially support the freshman and sophomore classes, which are going to be slightly larger next year than they are now. And those are the students who would be looking to do the doubling up on math. And so I would like to see us add that into the budget.
I can add just a little bit about the interventionist position. So we had the good fortune this year, last semester, to have an intern from UConn who was studying to be a math teacher. And so with that position, they piloted this interventionist type approach as our intern, and they had great success with it. And one of the reasons why the need has emerged over the last couple of years is that the number of students doubling up on math has just about doubled. Where we used to have really primarily students who were looking at, it was the junior or senior year where they might have been taking a high-level math and a statistics course, and that was the doubling. Now what we're seeing is more doubling with the Algebra 2 and geometry at the lower levels as underclassmen in order to reach whatever their goal is by the time they graduate. Looking back over the last couple of years, that's really picked up in the last 2-3 years, and we've gone from somewhere in the 40s, somewhat, students doing that to over 80 students doing that, with again, half or more being those underclassmen and the doubling up. So that's a part of the help, but also this position has been available to students who aren't doubling up but are struggling, who need some extra help. And when they do need that help, it can be very targeted in a specific concept or a specific approach, and that's where an interventionist can get in to do that specific work with the student versus having a teacher go back and reteaching units and things like that in a classroom, which is much more difficult. So we've had success with this position this year, and that's, again, why we're confident bringing it forward and saying it will meet a need that we have.
Thank you. Matt?
Yeah, I was just wondering, it wasn't clear to me through your update, Dr. Lutzy, about you and Dr. Carenti. You met with the elementary school principals following our budget workshop. I know we talked about sort of what would be the most immediate need and the most impactful, directly impactful to students as we think about sort of the allocation of resources across the 3 elementary schools and how could we address that in the most impactful way. Could you give us an update on that or what should be proposed?
So I did have an opportunity to speak with the 3 elementary principals on Friday. And I think the position that they would really appreciate is another classroom coach. So it wouldn't be a classroom coach per building. It would be 2 classroom coaches that could be shared among the 3 elementary schools. I think what they're finding right now is last year, the way that we designed the classroom coach was she would spend one day in each of the buildings, and then she would split one of the days. So she would kind of hit administrative meetings on a Monday in all 3 of the buildings, and then she might do, south, east, west for the rest of the week, and then Friday was kind of that add-on day. And then after all of those relationships start to build, people start to reach out to her, ask her to come into her classroom, ask her to model lessons, ask her to give them feedback. And then we also had the influx of all the new teachers. I think that Mr. Kasek had talked about that statistic during the budget workshop. When we talk about new teachers, we're talking about years 1 through 4. And so that number has raised over the last 3 years as well. And so I think what we're finding now is one of the buildings has more new teachers than other buildings, and so she's spending more time with those new teachers, and rightfully so. That's what they need right now in order to help get all the expectations in their classrooms ready and going. And I'm very excited because the first board meeting in February, we're going to be doing a presentation with both the classroom coaches, the math coach as well as the classroom coach. So they're in the process of preparing that now and really talking about the impact that it has not only on the teachers, but also on the students. And we are seeing huge impacts. They were doing a statistic today, and I don't want to steal her thunder, but she was really talking about the increased amount of instructional time that can occur in 1 week when you fix transitions, when you fix any disruptions. And we're finding that, our new teachers really benefit from this. It's how do they establish that classroom community? How do they establish those expectations? How do they teach kids to move from a carpet back to their desk, back to the carpet? How do they keep those materials organized? And it really does maximize the instructional time for our students, which ultimately is the impact that we would have. We would want our students to have the best learning environments with the least amount of disruptions that are taking place in those classrooms. And so her work is really meant to be with teachers. She might consult with them on behavioral issues, but we have other experts in our district that really work on those behavioral issues, whether that be a BCBA or a school psychologist or a social worker. They really kind of offer a different kind of support. She's really that tier 1 support that really offers the assured experience in all of our classrooms to make sure that we optimize those learning environments for our students.
And how is her time allocated? If there's certain buildings with more need than others, and you're just going sort of one day each, it seems like a...
So we've changed that this year. So now we're doing what we call coaching cycles. And so she'll be finding herself maybe spending a morning in one building, an afternoon in another building. Sometimes she might be spending 3 to 4 days in one building just in the mornings, just to try to work with those classroom teachers on getting those routines up and running. So it's much more fluid in how she's working with teachers. So we were finding that it was great last year because it helped to build relationships. And in order to really work with teachers in their classrooms, you have to have those comfortable relationships with them. So we've built that trust up, and now it's more fluid in the sense that they really can work with a teacher 2 to 3 days in a row, instead of seeing one teacher on a Tuesday and then waiting a whole nother week to see them back on a Tuesday. And then we get the principal's feedback as far as, what are they seeing overall? Learning is one of our domains in our TEPL document. So that is one of the domains that they're in those classrooms evaluating teachers on. It's that whole classroom community, that whole classroom environment.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I think Laura, please.
Sorry, so I just want clarity. When the ask was for 2 FTEs of the classroom coaches, did you say we will have 2 or we're adding 2? Because we already have 1, right? So it'll be 1 FTE for the classroom coach and then 1 FTE for the math specialist.
Correct. That's what was discussed at the workshop.
Right.
Correctly. It says 2 classroom coaches there because ultimately that works towards an embedded model where there's 1 embedded in each of the elementaries full-time.
Right.
But that's not the model we're proposing right now. We think the
Okay.
coaching cycles, as Dr. Candy outlined it, are working very well. So it can be more fluid than being embedded.
So going forward for next year, we would have 2 classroom coaches amongst the 3 elementary schools. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Is there a way that we are going to evaluate the efficacy of the coach, and whether it's TEPL feedback or scores increasing, or is there a way that we can see whether or not this is a good use of funds and a good investment?
So we evaluate all of our coaches, department chairs, any of our teacher leaders in domain 7. So that was the additional domain that we put into our TEPL framework last year. So that's the domain where they're really knowledge of their content, the data analysis, their interaction with teachers, their communication, and those are the indicators that they're looked at throughout the course of the year. And then certainly the student impact we measure all the time on our formative data that we have in front of us for our students. And so we're always looking at that data. So we're seeing some results, obviously, with our math coach because it's content driven. So you're seeing those new teachers being able to unpack those units of study in the curriculum, have a deeper understanding of it, and then you're really measuring that assessment, and you're seeing the growth that's occurring because of the understanding of teaching those math concepts. When it comes to the classroom coach, we really rely on our building principals, and they're the ones, and our assistant principals, they're the ones that are going in and out of classrooms every single day, and they're evaluating the teachers in that domain number 1, and that's our learning environment. And so they're giving teachers feedback in that area. But I will tell you that, the research will say that obviously the number 1 way that you impact students is through this coaching model, because you're getting the students to have those same experiences and helping maximize their learning.
Thank you.
Other questions? Penny?
So if we increase and you have 2 classroom coaches, how will you change the model that we currently have?
So we would continue to use a coaching cycle. So we always start at the beginning of every school year. It's always with the new teachers. But I will tell you that they're in and out of classrooms all the time because one of the important pieces of a classroom coach is understanding even our veteran teachers. So sometimes we'll have veteran teachers that might have a cohort of students in front of them that they're just trying to figure out and trying to make sure that their classroom is operating the way they want it to be. But we also use our veteran teachers as models. So those classroom coaches get in and out of those veteran classrooms all the time. So they'll be able to say, you're having difficulty with transitions? Come with me. We're going to have somebody watch your classroom, and we're going to go into the 2nd grade classroom. We're going to watch this teacher. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the moves that teacher makes in order to really get those students to maximize that time. So we'll still follow our coaching cycle model where we're having them, this is all new. It could be, you could have one work with primary grades, one work with intermediate grades. You could have it working with year 1 and year 2s, another one working with years 3s and 4s and veterans. So there's different ways that we can model it. We would just have to kind of figure that out. It is really based on the needs. So we do rely heavily on our building administrators to talk about where the needs are. I do meet with the classroom coach every single week because she actually has a big picture. And so she's able to come and say, you know what, I'm noticing that we need to do some professional learning with all 3rd grade across the district. And then we talk about that. We say, well, what might that professional learning look like and why might we think that way? And then we decide whether that's a professional learning that can happen during the school year or whether we need to wait for like a February or November professional learning.
Any other questions? You good, Penny?
One more, I don't know
Sure.
quite how to phrase it, but
Yeah.
what point do the teachers sort of graduate from classroom coaching? How much time? I mean, I know it's going to be very variable. But is there an average, so we can look at the number of teachers we have and how much time it takes and see that one classroom coach and those sort of statistics is not enough?
So we have some data already that we would be able to say that certain teachers have, no longer need the classroom coach. We have that data already. They might just need stop-bys. What's really interesting now is the conversations that we have with the math coach as well. So oftentimes the math coach might come out of a classroom and they might say, you know what, I want to work with this teacher, but I think the classroom coach needs to work with the teacher first, and then I'm going to move back in and do the math work. And so we're also seeing that even with our specialists in the building. And so they're varying what they're doing. And the ultimate goal is the transfer. So whatever they're doing in math, you want them to be able to do in reading, you want them to be doing social studies and science. So whether that's the behavior expectations, or maybe in math you're learning how to unpack a unit of study, and you're learning what standards mean and how you unpack standards, or you're learning how to do small group instruction in math, well, how does that transfer over into reading? How does that transfer over into writing? So it's all about that transfer of the skill. And so we're finding ourselves just continuing to grow with the teachers as they're learning as well.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that even the most accomplished performers, athletes, others, have people who help them to continually refine their craft. And teaching's not that different. There's not a good enough, right? So even our best teachers benefit from someone who can provide them with feedback, with a critical eye around certain things as they continue working to continually improve. And they're always learning new things and growing. So our coaching will continually evolve as the teachers continue to evolve. And as Jill, I think, mentioned before, turnover is always going to be a thing, right? So one of the challenges for any district is, as your district's moving forward, if you're not training folks who are joining your district to along those same lines and really working hard for them to catch up, things fall apart very quickly. So we have to also make sure we're always helping our new folks to get their feet on the ground and learn the way that we do things, which is different than other districts. Each district has its own way of approaching instruction and kids and communication and families and all of those pieces. So there's a great deal of value added through these positions, regardless of where a teacher is on a continuum of practice.
We also have teachers that move grade levels. So you need to remember that they are K-6 certified, so they're not content-driven. So at any given time, based on enrollment, they could be moved from 4th grade to 2nd grade, or 2nd grade to kindergarten, or kindergarten up to 3rd grade, because they are certified K-6. And so anytime they're making a change to a grade level, you're working with a new group of kids, developmentally who are different, and new curriculum. And so you have to be able to provide that kind of background and training to them so that they're able to continue to have success as teachers.
Just real quick, I probably missed this at some point, but who is our math coach? I know Jen Eldridge, I know her story. Who's our math coach?
So our math coach is Mary Fisher, and she was a teacher at East. She's an exemplary teacher, had been in the district for many years, teaching mainly 3rd and 4th grade, but I think 2nd grade at some point as well. So we're very excited when we can hire within and move those internal people into these coaching roles. We know that success is when they are exemplary teachers, and then they can help to work with other teachers. So she has a strong math background, has a deep understanding of it. She went through a committee interview as well, and she's hitting the ground running.
Great, thank you. And thanks, Dr. Carenti, for all the additional color and depth. I am supportive of both the math interventionist as well as the additional classroom coaches. I've gotten very positive feedback over the course of the year from all members of the community, administrators, teachers. I know board members generally very much in favor of it as well. I was also really excited to see, just given that these are budget discussions, that we would be going down 1 FTE, and this would be adding now 2. So while I'm supportive, I'd like to also make a request that we try and at least keep the FTEs level year over year. Even ideally look for other efficiencies or ways to repurpose dollars as we continue to work through the budget throughout the year, so that we can, again, at a minimum, stay flat and ideally not add. And that would be my only request here. Any thoughts, questions on that?
I agree 100% with what you said, Hugo.
Okay, so great, and thank you for that. So I think then, before moving on, I would like to, can I get a motion to add to the budget a math interventionist position? Matt Wexler, seconded. Phil, all in favor? That's exciting. Look at that, unanimous. I love it. All right, so that motion passes. Next, can I please get a motion to add an additional classroom coach at the elementary level? Laura, second. Phil, all in favor? Looking good, guys. This is good. All right, and then can I get a motion? I guess I do a motion. Can I get a motion to request that the administration keep our FTEs at least flat for the year, and ideally one down?
All right.
Sorry.
I just want to, if someone makes that motion, I'd like to have discussion.
Let's have a discussion then.
You need first and second.
Got it. Campbell, second. Julie, discussion.
Okay, so I'm always in favor of reducing the budget if we can efficiently. But if this is eliminating a position, then I would like to know what that position is and be able to evaluate whether or not I think that position is more valuable or one of the ones that we're adding. I can't blanket say reduce an FTE without knowing who that FTE is. We have a little bit of movement with FTEs every year in terms of classroom size, how many kids are moving into the district. I mean, we just got a report that we have a lot of kids registered for kindergarten, more than last year. So I can't support that. I support keeping the lowest possible budget, but I can't support that without knowing what position it is that we would be eliminating.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify, I'm not looking to necessarily, like, lose somebody that we already have, but I'm just, wondering if there's other ways and other opportunities to find the resources, or, I'm not
Well,
sure.
and I
What's
also don't,
names?
I don't want to
Go ahead.
outsource something, right? I think that, one of the ways you could have, we always have attrition, so I don't think we're talking about firing anyone, because we always have
Correct.
attrition every year. And, one of the ways you could get a neutral FTEs is you could outsource something. Well, I don't know that that's going to help our budget. And to me, the whole sort of focus by the town bodies on FTEs is misplaced and not the right focus that they should have on our budget. If you just look at where we fall with respect to our peer districts, our cost per student is, far below what our performance is, which is at the top. And some of the ways that we do that are we hire people and we have these amazing programs and we keep kids in district and we're not outsourcing them and we're not outsourcing, some work. So I think you have to look at our overall success and not just at FTEs. And, and I think our overall success speaks for itself. So those are just my feelings about this issue.
Matt?
So I agree with both of you, actually. And what I would say is that I think that, we never have the detail on anything as to who exactly is going or coming, right? Like, and what's been told to me several times in the past over a year, including by you, Penny, was that you have to just trust the administration, right, and their proposal. And we're not going to get too far into the weeds. And so to ask for now who exactly, where we're going to take this position from, well, we don't know where these positions are coming from in the first place, right? So I don't have that level of detail on anything, quite frankly. But I think you make a very valid point in that we can't solely look at FTEs. And what I would propose in sort of tweaking, I think what you mentioned, Hugo, and also in the spirit of what Penny is arguing, I think correctly, is that we can't focus solely on FTE, but I think that what the concern is the efficient use of scarce resources, right? Efficient use of taxpayer dollars. And while we're all comfortable with the current proposal and sort of the percentage increase year over year, I think that what we should do is trust the administration and say, okay, the board has stated its priorities with a mass interventionist and an additional classroom coach. How can we take a fine-tooth comb without increasing proposed year-over-year increase, add those two positions? And so whatever those efficiencies that may be gained, and it may not come in the form of a headline FTE number, maybe it comes in some other cost controls. And I think that's an adequate way to address both what Penny is rightfully saying, that we shouldn't focus solely on FTE, but on effectiveness and sort of results. But also we need to be fiscally responsible, and we can do it both ways. And with the trust of the administration, you guys have that level of detail of exactly FTEs, where things to be cut. I have complete confidence in Sean, his ability to do that. And I think we can accomplish both things.
Yeah, I agree. And I meant to mention earlier, while supportive, I do also want to echo what both Matt Wexler and Penny said in questioning, I appreciate that we added the domain, but we're still only a year into these new positions, right? And I imagine that that's something that we've asked for this year and last year. Let's figure out ways to more effectively track the success so that this is not a conversation that we have to have with other town bodies, because it's just so obvious that these things are working, right? And I'm confident that they are, and that's what Campbell's saying, and that we know that, but we'd have far more efficient conversations. And I guess my question would be to you, Brian, are there opportunities that you can think of that we'd be able to maintain just a kind of a flat FTE? Sorry. Oh, Brendan. Apologies.
Yeah, thank you. No worries. So I guess a couple things. First, I'm supportive of adding those positions. I think it makes a lot of sense for all the reasons that we've discussed. Second, from an FTE standpoint, we know where all the FTEs are, and we have all that detail. And so if we're specifically focused on FTEs, which I don't think we should be, I think we should be focused on results. And if we want to be focused on dollars, we can talk about the dollars. But if there's a dollar amount that we're targeting, we should discuss what that number is, rather than we need to find, one FTE in our operating plan and remove that FTE, or not hire that FTE for the next school year. So I would not be an advocate for adding these positions and then taking out dollars, and we don't know where those dollars are coming from. If Brian and the cabinet have a view as to how we can save money in the context of adding those additional positions, I think we can discuss that. But I don't love the idea of just leaving tonight and having, a goal that we don't know, and we don't know how that goal is going to be accomplished.
Thank you. Brian, any comments?
Well, yeah, a couple of thoughts. First of all, just, budgets are tricky, right? Because a budget is an itemized estimate of anticipated expenses. So as we build our budget and put it all together, we're operating under assumptions, and we use experience and we use some projections in order to build those assumptions. A good example, I think, is the turnover savings that is articulated in the budget. I believe it's $175,000. So having calculated this a few years ago, we anticipate saving about $32,000, $34,000 per retiree with a new hire. And it depends on what they teach and what area they're filling. So we sort of generate this $150,000, $175,000 number as our turnover savings in anticipation of some retirements. Darlene, if I'm correct, we have 3 in hand, or is it 4?
We have 3 in hand.
Okay.
And 1 resignation. Someone's moving away at the end of the year.
Okay. And then, of course, the retirees, when someone retires, as long as they're not in a shortage area, there's more savings than if somebody resigns in mid-career and things like that, right? So we're looking at those things. So there are other assumptions, of course, that are built into the budget that, we could look at and work with a little bit. I will say that in a couple of positions, non-certified spots, we're taking a very close look at the staffing. Or I think the drivers, our van drivers, is a good example of that, where Elmer's looking at all of the runs, and we had a resignation there. We're going to work on not replacing that position and work through the year, and we believe we'll be okay. Bill, this might be news to you. I just learned this today. Sorry. Yeah. Don't blow my phone up. I'm going to turn it over. But we're always looking at those things and looking to see what makes sense. I will also say that when we're very short, Elmer's getting behind the wheel and driving the van and doing that. So, but we're going to try that and see if there's some possible savings there. So both on the FTE side and on the budget development and building side, with around some of those assumptions, every time we adjust an assumption, it increases the risk that we're not going to hit whatever that number might be. We have in the past gone as high as $300,000 on turnover savings as a result of sort of Board of Finance and some conversations there. We've been okay, in our budget, but I'm a little concerned given the number of retirements we had over the last couple of years versus what we're anticipating when we look at our staff now. We've had quite a bit of turnover, but we can look at all of those assumptions and work to see what kind of opportunity we can find. We are also closely monitoring the class sizes, as you said. There is always a little bit of nervousness in a budget when we know the elementary schools because of the guidelines and what we have. And we're working on the projections from NASDAQ that we have for next year in kindergarten and across the elementaries, where we're anticipating it being a little bit smaller than it was this year, but those kindergarten registration numbers were a bit higher, as you saw, than we've seen in the past. So we're just going to continue to closely monitor it. For us, we're here to do and create the budget that you are proud of and ready to bring forward as the Board of Education budget. So we are ready to do whatever it takes to make sure that happens as for the Board of Education and what you believe is the right thing going forward. I think that the addition of the 2 positions will create a true leverage point for us and is an excellent addition, I think, for all the reasons we've talked about. Our commitment is always to try to manage the FTEs as closely as we can. Given where we are and given some of the things that we've learned as we've gone through the year, again, we've had some problems filling a position. great problems filling a very specific position in the special education area. And so that could, again, be, you're right, that we've been, or we may need to outsource or pay somebody overtime in order to do that, but there could be opportunity there. If we can't find the right person, we don't hire somebody. And for a year now, we've been trying to hire into this position. We haven't been able to do it. So that could be another opportunity for an FTE. So just a couple of thoughts.
That's helpful. I mean, my take on this is that the superintendent's budget says, here are the things we're planning to do, and this is how much it's going to cost to do it. And if we say we are going to add 2 more FTEs to that, but we're not going to increase the budget, we are increasing our own risk that we are not able to then execute within the budget. That would be a choice that we would make. And there's nothing potentially to stop us from saying, let's add 10, let's add 20 new FTEs, but keep the budget the same. But the likelihood that we will not be able to achieve what we say we want to achieve within the budget goes up if you add FTEs without adding the budget that's associated with them. So, I mean, I think it comes down to, there's an embedded recommendation here of what our tolerance is for potentially not being able to accomplish this within the current budget that we've set out. And I would be in favor, if we add FTEs, that the budget increases to make sure that we can do that work and do all the work that's already in here to the level that we've said we want to do it.
No, I would typically agree with that, but given sort of the size and the scale of the budget, we're talking about less than 10 basis points. And so there's plenty of room to, I think, go back and review and see. And I would actually, from a wording perspective, actually sort of withdraw that motion and not make it an FTE base, but a quantum base, right? Sort of maintaining that same year-over-year amount and adding those 2 additional positions. But again, I think that as we look at the relative size, and we're talking about, roughly 10 basis points of change.
Yeah, and I'd also like to add, it feels like we're mixing potentially two issues. One is adding FTEs, trying to maintain either budget neutrality or move money around to maintain this number. The other part is the investment return on the dollar and whether or not this is a net benefit that is worth the expense. And so perhaps there's 2 different motions that need to be put in place. The first one is, whether or not we increase the budget slightly or we work within the budget, assuming that it's all going to work out. Then the other one is, how do we properly and effectively measure whether or not this investment is a good use of dollars, of taxpayer dollars, in order to then determine should it continue for another year or 2 or 3, right? Because that's really what we're sort of testing this model to some degree. We know it's got some validity, but we're adding more because we are still trying to make this model kind of work across the board. Is there a way that we can structure quantitatively, qualitatively, however we measure it, that this is a good use of ongoing dollars so that we know whether or not to continue to invest in it?
Brendan?
Yeah, maybe just to try to bridge the gap here. I think we're all in agreement. It makes sense to add these positions. People would like to net, reduce the impact of adding those two positions. So maybe what we could do is increase the assumed turnover savings from 175 to 225. That way we all know exactly what we're doing, what the assumptions are going in. While that increases the risk, it's not a crazy number as compared to what we've done historically. And that, offsets some of the impact of those 2 positions.
Yeah, I'm very much in favor of that.
To Brendan's point, when was that assumption made? I guess the 175.
The 175?
Yeah, how recent is that assumption?
Just as this budget was put together in December.
Okay,
October.
so yeah.
And Sean, what does that do to the percentage increase? So it's 50 grand. Yeah. Versus the 225. Right, so it's less than 10, so splitting difference.
So the new positions, we anticipate about 68.5, is that what we? So just to, to balance it out, instead of adding 50, we could add 68.5 and then say it's one position covered in that, the other position in the budget, something like that if you wanted to. But that's the number we use, 68.5, because of the anticipation. And it may or may not be the case with the math or dementias, depending upon the pool. But I know when we hire into these positions, we really are looking for the internal hire, because they have the relationships with others, and they've been a part of our system. So those folks would move into that role, and then what we do is backfill their position. So you don't save on the folks going into the position, but you anticipate that 68.5 for the person who's replacing them, right?
Okay, so how do we change the motion then to add, so we got the two motions on the table to add the interventionist, the other one for the classroom
We
coach.
voted on those
They
are done.
passed.
Right. But the last one is my point. We got to withdraw that one.
The last motion would be to increase the turnover savings by 68.5? Is that what we're,
Why don't we
What-
round it?
Yeah.
65 or 70?
okay?
I just do a position.
Right.
Okay, whatever you want.
Well, no, my suggestion was to keep it neutral, the budget impact neutral.
No, because we're adding 2, and I was saying.
Keeping it yeah, but removing a position but keeping it neutral.
He's just saying to offset some of the increase by changing the assumption of the turnover.
Right.
I'm saying is to maintain a budget neutral, adding these two. And so not necessarily saying, okay, so some of it, to Brendan's point, may come from the turnover assumption, but there may be, I guess you're looking for another 50K somewhere else in aggregate.
Brendan.
Right, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm saying not to get back to neutral relative to what the superintendent's budget was, but to offset the change of those 2 additional positions by 68.5, if we wanted to use that exact number. So the turnover savings would go up from 175. We'd add 68.5 to that number, and it would essentially offset half of the increase of those 2 positions. I think if we're going to do more than that, we need to identify what that is. We just identified turnover savings. If we want another 68.5, I'm not an advocate of doing another 68.5. I think we have to figure out where that's coming from, because it's not going to come from propane or anything else. It's too big.
So,
Brendan, make a motion.
one thing we could say, every single year, we give back money to the town, right? Because it's not like we get our budget and then we spend it all. We try and save money wherever
every
we
year.
can.
Yeah.
Over the
Not
year.
every year.
So, what?
Not every year.
Not every year? I thought, last
No.
year. Okay, sorry, I thought we had. Most years. So anyhow, I would be comfortable with increasing it to the 68.5, and then asking the administration to look and try and save the rest of it throughout the year. But if we need to identify it now, I think we need to talk about where the assumptions are, where we would find it.
That was what I'm generally in favor of doing it that way.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but if everybody else is okay with kind of just splitting the difference and moving it rather than moving it from the FTE requirement, which I agree is kind of counterintuitive, I guess, if we're saying we need this, but still maintaining a reasonably tight budget.
So if we did that, we would only be increasing the budget, by about 0.05? Yeah.
So how do,
So
yep.
do you want, so I'd like to make a motion to increase the turnover savings by 70,000.
Phil, second? Do we need a second?
Well, Phil was the second. Erica
Got
made
it.
the motion.
Okay, I'll learn this one day, guys. Okay, so we've got, yes.
No, but Brendan put his hand up, but I
Okay.
think he was supporting the motion? Or
Yeah, supporting.
Supportive.
Correct.
Okay. So we've got the motions. Do I vote on each motion, or now we vote on the
only
entire
motion on
second
the
read?
floor is simply the adding 70,000 to turnover. You have to vote on it,
So we just need to vote on that one.
Got it.
unless there's more discussion.
No, but we didn't vote on the other 2 motions. We did? Where have you guys been this whole time? Sorry, it's been a long,
You had a good week.
long few weekends, few days.
They were unanimous votes.
Got it. Oh, that's right. I was very excited about them too. All right. Anyway, so all in favor of adding $70,000 to the superintendent's 2025-26 budget to pay for the math interventionist in the classroom level elementary coach? Yeah.
Sorry, I'm hesitating because it's a separate motion.
Wait, so the motion?
I made a motion and Phil seconded it,
70,000 for the turnover.
so it's just
So
voting
vote
on
on
that.
that one motion now.
So all in favor of adding $70,000 to the budget?
No, subtracting.
Increasing the turnover assumption.
Increasing the turnover assumption by $70,000. Got it. All in favor of that? Thank you. That's unanimous. I'm sweating now. Any other discussion about the budget before we actually vote on the entire budget? And then start the party in town.
So the 3 approved motions are to add the math interventionist for the high school, add an elementary classroom coach, and to add $70,000 to our turnover assumption, which is actually, a negative to the budget.
Okay. So, could we get a motion to adopt as a second reading? Superintendent, we already got the first one, so I'm
This
just
is
gonna
wrong,
vote.
I apologize. It's already been first, friend.
So we're just
moved and
voting on the whole
seconded.
thing.
Yep, so without further discussion, it's a vote.
All right, let's vote on the budget.
It's not gonna be this, it's not gonna be this, it's gonna be as amended tonight.
Yep,
Yeah.
so, right, it's a vote. Oh, you want a new motion, given the amendments?
Well, I think
No.
motion to adopt as the second reading, the superintendent's 2025-26.
As amended.
Proposal as first moved and seconded by Mr. Hayes and Ms. Kelly and as amended at this meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right language, but
Because we're not,
Okay.
adopting what was read the first time.
That's,
Eric, could you write that down so I could read it out loud?
Oh, sorry, yes, I did.
You're just adding as amended to the end of that motion.
Yeah, that's what she wrote. It's gonna be perfect. All right, so can I get a vote to adopt as a second reading the superintendent's 2025-26 budget proposal as first moved and seconded by Mr. Hayes and Ms. Kelly respectively, and as amended of this reading? All in favor? All right, good. All right, budget passes. Thank you all. Unanimously.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
I want to say thank you, thank you all. Great discussion. It was a great continuation of the discussion on Friday, and looking forward to presenting the Board of Education's budget beginning on Thursday morning with the Board of Selectmen and going through our process. So thank you all, and onward.
All right. We still have more to talk about. Statement of accounts. What's up?
So just for everyone's record, the budget you just voted for is $114,247,271.
Oh, that's it? We're good?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Questions? Nope.
No, just have to do the statement of accounts.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, statement of accounts. Through December, our operating fund actual is $46.5 million, or 42%, 42.6% of our full-year budget of $109.1. That compares to, the 42.6% compares to 41.8 at the same period last year. So we're spending at a slightly higher rate, but much of that is attributable to timing differences in payments from year to year. Grants overall total $2,091,501 through December, with year-to-date expenditures of $430,765, leaving a remaining balance as of December 31st of $1,660,736. On school lunch, revenue totals $1,229,171, or 39.8% of our budget of $3.086504, and a year-to-year decrease of 5.3%. The decrease year to year is primarily due to a shift in the mix of sales. They're selling more hot meals and less sandwiches and snacks. So hot meals are about $4.30. Sandwiches are about $2 higher than that. So we're selling what I view as a healthier mix of food, which is a good thing. In addition, one thing we noticed that there's a higher number of free and reduced roster. At this point last year, we were at 130 free and reduced students. As of now, we're at 162, so it's a 32 increase or 25%. So that's having an impact on the revenue as well. Total expense through December is $1,157,000, or 40.6% of our full year budget, and a year-to-year increase of $20K, or 1.8%. And the increase is primarily attributable to budgeted increase in salaries and equipment, and partly offset by lower grocery and paper goods. Net income for food services currently reflecting a positive $71,951, resulting in a healthy fund balance of $904,000 through December. Facilities, rentals, and donation. Facility rentals revenue $61,146, expense $97K, net income minus $36, fund balance as of December $291,000. Donations revenue of $60,000, expenses $103, net income a minus $43, fund balance stands at $136,000. Summer school revenue $124, revenue expenses of $133, net income a minus $8, fund balance remains at $163. So that's the statement of accounts. I would ask you to turn to page 16 in the package, which is related to the full year 25 budget reforecast. So at this time each year, during the budget process, we review the current budget in detail account and perform a reforecast in an effort to provide a more realistic view year to year with our requested budget. And as you can see on page 16, when the major object codes, you can see that in total, the budget does not change. It's just shifting from various major object codes to the other. So page 16 is at a summary level. Page 17 provides a little bit more granularity. Some of the things, revenue, regular teacher salaries down 658 based on year-to-date encumbrances and turnover and unpaid leave of absence savings. We did also include in that we increased drivers and bus monitors, which, if you recall, at year-end last year, we were over budgeted in drivers and monitors. So this is an effort to fix that, not only in the current year, but in the full year 26 budget as well. In the benefits area, we reduced it by $46,000 due to lower premiums than expected. In contract services, $28,000 of savings in interns. Outsourced services, lower use of outsourced services. Illegal expense also down, $121,000, lower usage. In property services, we're insourcing some of the facility specialists more where feasible. We also are beginning to show some savings in software licensing from our E-rate process, which just kicked in this year. Purchase services, we're seeing savings in athletic, transportation, due to the higher use of DATCO buses versus coach buses. And that came about because DATCO now has additional personnel to drive the buses, which is a good story. Supplies down in total by about $5K in tech supplies and professional books. And in equipment, total other, there was no change. So bottom line, budget doesn't change. Those are some of the shifts. At year end, if you recall, we'll have a final year-end transfer, and it's basically a mandated request from the state to ensure that none of our major object codes are in the negative. So we have shifts at year-end as well. That's it.
Great, thanks, Sean. Questions, comments? Phil?
On the free and reduced, Sean, was this jump anticipated? And historically, do we know like roughly what that number is? Is it around 130 most of the time, or does it bounce up and down a fair amount?
It changes. We do know that when we were looking at the cookie program, we were at 130 last year. And we started out that way this year, but it's been slowly increasing. And we anticipate that we may still go higher. So it's ever-changing.
It has been on a slight incline over the last couple of years, and I know because of the cookie program, we've been paying close attention to it. 2 years ago, I believe we were at about 117 when we began the conversation and ended at 130. So we started at 130, now we're up at 160. So we pay close attention to it.
And the qualifications nothing else has changed?
No, we use the federal income limits
Okay.
across the board, although we are a self-op, as you know, and we do not participate in the National School Lunch Program, but that gives us a system and a benchmark to use. That's what we use.
Any other questions? All right. Next, comments from the public?
Just have to make a motion to accept the transfer.
Guys, anything?
Oh, I do. Can I get a motion to accept the transfers as detailed in the December 2024 statement of accounts, please? Matt Campbell, second. Penny, all in favor? That's unanimous. Comments from teachers? Anybody want to talk today? No? Good. I know, comments from the public. And then announcements of future business. Yeah.
Thanks, Bill.
And
Announcements and future business.
Please.
All right. Well, we had a brief preview of our meeting coming up on Monday, February 10th, where we will talk about our classroom and math coaches and the work that they're doing. I had the great fortune today to do something that I know many of our board members have done already, which is go and read to a kindergarten class over at South. I was in Miss Barbosa's class and got to read a couple of books, one about a giraffe and another about a blizzard, which seemed just right. Good timing, where every kindergartner in class wanted to tell me everything they did yesterday and how many times they went sledding or skiing or snowboarding, and it was definitely a highlight. It was great. At your seats, you have two legislative priority documents, one from CAPS and the other from CABE. And we are going in now to a long session with the legislature. I get emails every day about proposed bills, and I think I'm up to about 270 just around education alone. With CAPS, what we've been doing is really working to restate our legislative priorities and try to streamline them. We had a blueprint a few years ago, and now what we've been doing is developing this set of legislative proposals, which really focus on three large things. One is elevating the education profession. When we look at the pipeline and we look at what's happening, we want to both celebrate the great things that happen in schools and work to build that pipeline in order to make sure what we're doing is sustainable. In the middle, you'll see it's about funding and finance, right? I said this should have been investing in excellence, but they liked funding and finance better. But that's really about raising the educational cost-sharing grant. It's about increasing the excess cost reimbursement grant, which has been declining through the years and is something that is really essential. You'll see the language that's in there. And the last, which I'm thrilled about, is about supporting early childhood education. You know, we we work with K-12, we have our pre-K, and we really want the state to do more to help build the pre-K programs that we have through grants and other opportunities and help us to really make that program as robust as possible for all children so that we can help to be sure that they're all prepared as they enter into school and can take advantage of what we have. So those are the CAPS legislative proposals. The CABE envelope, which I received and read mine, also has the CABE priorities. And of course, you're going to see quite a bit of overlap between those groups. And I'm thrilled to say that the CEA and the AFT, the two teacher unions in the state, also are well aware of the legislative priorities and are part of the conversation and agree wholeheartedly with many, certainly with elevating the profession. So I'm optimistic that we can have a positive session this year with our legislators. We're going to be working closely with them, different meetings and breakfasts and other things, and hopefully if there's an impact, it'll be a positive one. Leave it at that. I also want to share, and there was an update in the message that went out today, that Power School our tech department's been working very closely with Power School and doing a great job trying to get from them whether or not we were impacted and what the extent of that might be. We do believe, and we have some confirmation now from Power School that yes, we were impacted, as so many were, thousands and thousands of districts across the world. And Power School is going to be following up now with the opportunities for families to accept identity protection and whatever other follow-ups need to happen. So Power School has said that they are going to do that and communicate directly with families and offer identity protection and everything else. We are following all of the requirements around the student data privacy law and other things that we have. An interesting part, you learn a lot as you're going through this. The vendors have 30 days to notify us as to when they're hacked, or if something like this happens, if there's a cybersecurity breach. And then we have 48 hours to notify the community. So they get 30 days and we get 2. And since it was their breach and their security flaw, it's been a little bit challenging, but I do want to commend Ian and Rick and the department for everything that they're doing to stay on top of this. So that continues to go forward. So people should expect communication directly from Power School, and it should include an offer of free identity protection for a period of time for everybody. Okay.
Great, thank you. And I just want to say one more time that I am very excited about this budget. I really want to thank the administrators and the teachers, staff, everybody, all the work that you guys do. As you like to say, it's the most important work on the planet, and we couldn't agree more. Also want to thank my board members for just being, not just working really, really hard, but also being very thoughtful and respectful in this exchange. I think that this, and as we kind of move through the town bodies, I think one of the best things about New Canaan is that everybody really is generally aimed in the same direction, and it's just a function of how we get there. And if I can, ask you guys, I know everyone's super busy, but the more we can get at some of these meetings, the more support that our administration can get, the better all of this is, because it takes a village, and we have a great community. So anyway, thank you all, and thanks for being patient with my complete improficiency with Robert's Rules of Order. I can't promise that I'll actually learn how to do it before this is all done, but I will try. Anyway, can I get a motion to adjourn, please? Campbell, second. Erica, all in favor? Thank you. Have a great night. See, I could do that one.